I just have a question. Would now be the time to bring up concerns we have for security purposes, or should we wait until community forum?
If it's an immediate question that...
It's not necessarily a question, it's security observations that I have for my child's elementary school, and I'm wondering if now is the time to bring it up, or should I wait until community forum?
I would say bring it up now while we have the ears here, if you could. Please identify yourself again for the record.
I will. I'm Tania Danamero. I live at 138 Grove Street, and I'm a Northeast School parent. It's been 9 days since we've actually had a greeter at Northeast School at the entrance of our school. We have not had a greeter since we left for Christmas vacation, although a letter was sent home and that was supposed to be procedure. It has not happened in 9 days. There's not a body sitting, there's a sign. I understand that the doors are locked at recess time and that kids cannot get back in the building, but it's my understanding that there's only one teacher on the playground that actually has a key to get back into the building. I find that disheartening. Without getting too graphic, if something happens to that one teacher and they're the only one with the key, our kids are vulnerable. The buzzer system is fabulous, except when parents open the door for you because they know you. Happened to me today. I didn't have to be buzzed in because there was a parent coming out, and because they recognized me, they let me in. That shouldn't happen, and there should be communication to us that that should not happen. Because although they know me, they don't know what, I may be having a bad day, and who knows what threat some parents may have. We just don't know what people's mental states are. Newtown proves that. If we're going to put cameras in place instead of having bodies, who's going to watch those cameras? Because our secretary seems overwhelmed at times. You know, the buzzer's going off, the phone is ringing, she's answering an email. And because Northeast is a vulnerability from where our office is, our kids, there are sections of our students who are vulnerable to something tragically happening because of where our office is located. And I understand that's a bigger issue and a bigger funding issue. But if we're going to have cameras, who's watching them? Who's going to be sitting in front of those cameras? The doors to the interior, I guess, was answered. They're locked from the outside. They don't necessarily have to be shut, is what I'm understanding. They're just ready to be shut if needed. And then at Northeast, we have to sign in now, which is fine when we drop our students off. But we have to go to the office in order to get that little pink badge that we get. To me, it would seem safer to move that staff member who's signing us in closer to the front door instead of having us actually go to the office, get the little badge, bring our kids to our classrooms if that's what we choose to do, and then we sign back out. It just seems like we're still, even though there are adults around, it just seems we're still a safety concern. But my biggest thing is we're saying procedurally that we're going to have a greeter at Northeast School. And there has not been a greeter in 9 days. And call me paranoid, call me nervous, Newtown hits close to home for me. And I have 2 children that are in the vulnerable hallway at Northeast School. And it makes me very nervous. And I was told at the PTO meeting that I have to trust the teachers. Sorry, they're all I've got. And I don't trust them with anyone but me. So if you're going to tell me that there's going to be a body there, tomorrow morning, I want a body there. I don't care who it has to be. It has to be one of you board members. I don't care. You wrote on a piece of paper, and I know it was from our principal, but I'm assuming that that came from direction from central office and discussions. I want a body there until you come up with another solution. And if it means that you have to reach out to parents who have had background checks, I've asked this before. We are here to support you. You need to ask us and tell us what you need. Thank you.
Thank you.
I actually had a question. Sussman? Okay.
Yes. Please identify yourself.
I'm Julie Garceau, 14 Nelson Drive, and my kids are at Northeast. I actually had a question about communication about lockdowns. We've had this issue already at our school prior to Newtown, where there were different lockdowns, and kids would come home talking about they were locked down. No, they weren't drills. They were actual lockdowns because of different things that happened. And there wasn't communication about it. So we had heard that it's not protocol for parents to be notified if there was a lockdown. But looking forward, as a parent who, you know, like many parents is, you know, Newtown brought up a lot of issues for all of us and everybody is scared. And I think, you know, this being the 1 month from when this happened, it brings up a lot of emotion for everybody. So I'm thinking forward, if my kids come home and say that there was a lockdown and they had to, you know, lock their doors, pull down the blinds, I'm going to be concerned about what that was, because my mind will go to something like Newtown. Clearly I will know it wasn't that because I would have been notified, but what will you guys be doing to improve the communication that you have with parents so that you don't have mass hysteria? Because you will have that. If tons of kids come home and say that they were scared and it brought up issues for them, which it likely will for many kids, we need to have some level of communication with the administration somehow to let us know. So I, as a parent, can be prepared for when my kids come home and are telling me, and I can say, yes, I heard that happened, and it sounds like everything was handled well, and you know, I can do whatever I need to do to assure my kids. So I just would like that addressed at some point, and I'm curious how that will be handled. Thank you.
Thank you. Dr. Conway, I don't know if you have any reply to that.
Thank you, Mr. Houle. Medical, soft and hard lockdowns, parents should have most likely an alert now message from me. That's happened at the high school for both kinds, as well as any hard lockdown, which we haven't had real ones. The medical lockdowns, Ms. Garceau is correct, we have not done that, and maybe we shouldn't use that phrase, a lockdown, because when someone is being picked up by an ambulance, we just try to make sure the hallways are clear so that we give the person, adult or child, privacy. And so I think that principals announce a lockdown, meaning keep your children, a medical lockdown, keep your children in your classrooms. So maybe they could use a different phrase. Sometimes that happens more than once a day. Not that often, but it has happened more than once a day in different schools. And so it's, we're trying to protect the privacy of the student or the adult who had to go to the hospital. So as I said, Ms. Garceau is correct, we have not sent out, a letter saying a student had to go to the hospital today, or an adult or an ambulance was called. We just didn't think that was appropriate. So maybe we should use a different phrase for that, not lockdown, because it really isn't a lockdown. It's privacy, is what it is. But I can understand using the phrase would certainly, bring out a lot of angst. Me too.
Thank you. Ms. Sussman.
Dr. Connolly, can you address Tania Damon-Merrow's concern about policy versus application?
I'm unaware that there was no one at the door, so I am following up on that right away. Thank you.
And there will be somebody tomorrow morning?
There will.
Thank you.
All right, seeing no further hands, I'm going to say thank you to both Chief Kenny and Fire Marshal Walker for attending this evening, and thank you, Dr. Connolly, for this presentation.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Board members, if you would please make sure that we put the handout of these documents there that you need to retrieve. Okay, we'll move on to item 2.0, which is the consent agenda. Item 2.1, I entertain a motion. Mr. Person. I have a motion to move the consent agenda. Mrs. Bush?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion on the motion? Ms. Sussman.
Could you please pull item E and F?
Items E and F are pulled. Any other discussion? Seeing none, I'm going to call for a vote on consent agenda 2.1A, B, C, D, and G. All in favor by a show of hands, please. And that's unanimous. Items E and F, Ms. Arn, you have the floor.
One of the stipulations of return to school, one of them states that the student would return prior to the beginning of the September school year, and the other one said could be considered for return in August. No, I'm not correct. I'll have to read them. The expulsions were the same after the last day of school. I'm sorry. One student could return after the last day of school. The other student would return at the beginning of the school year. Did we make that distinction? And if so, why?
To the best of my recollection, I do recall one that we said that the student could apply for return at the end of on the last day of the school year. I don't recall doing that same motion on the subsequent meeting. That one was at the beginning of the following year. I don't recall. We'd have to go back to the record. Dr. Connolly, we could go back to the tape on that.
I do. I actually was reading both the letters were going out today to the families, and they both had the same intent, but for both students, the request was that they request re-entry in June, and that they could return at the beginning of the school year. One of them actually mentioned the request was supposed to be on or about June 14th, which is not the last day of school. It's prior to the last day of school. So it was, so that was both of those. I'm having difficulty finding both of your,
They are.
oh, the last two.
It's F and G.
Right. Oh, it's F and G. Okay, that makes more sense. Right, the language was slightly different. Yeah, one was that they can request approximately June 14th. So by then, that's the end of the school year. And the other one, the language was can request to return by the end of the 2013 school year for the beginning of the 2013-14 school year. So the intent was the same, the language was different. So I couldn't change the language because that was the motion of the board.
My concern is that the student who would be allowed to return after the last day of school could then participate in activities over the summer.
That is correct, and that was the intent.
And that was the intention?
The family had asked about that, yes. For football practice, I think was specifically, or fall sports practice. And that was...
that was one of the questions of the board member, and I think that's why that was put out there that way.
Okay, thank you.
That was item which, was that F or G? Oh, both, that was F and G. Okay. Okay, so we're going to need an amendment to our motion. However, let's amend the motion for F and G first. And then I believe Ms. Fisher still wants to have item E discussed. So if we could act on that, that would be appropriate. So Mrs. Arn was pulling F and G, and you're requesting E. So we're all the same. Okay. And you're done with F and G.